Hi, everyone. This is Mindy Egan for Concord and Night. This is the introduction and how-to tutorial for the Burst of Blooms stamp and die set. This set is going to allow you to create a beautiful bouquet and also some coordinating sentiments and banner to go with it. So on the back of the packaging is a gorgeous color example. I love using the Concord and Ninth color palettes to kind of kickstart my inspiration. So we are going to start by taking a look at the sentiments that are included in the set. So we have things like for you, and then there are these like banner phrases that say for all you do and you're the best because we have the thanks letter picks in the die set that would coordinate with those sentiments. We also have just a little note to say, and then some little hearts and floral stamp images. The die set is created so you can use the images on their own to create cards, or you can use with a pop up feature. So, first, taking a look at the die set, we have some floral arrangements. You would start by die cutting in a color cardstock for your flowers and then adding the stem over the top. Then you have some greenery. We have another kind of floral or layered floral die set. And then there's also a bouquet wrap. Those are the pieces die cut in white cardstock over on the right hand side. Those two smaller pieces with the perforated edge are going to be meant to be used with the pop up feature if you have the pop up burst base dies. The bouquet wrap piece there that I'm pointing out, you can use with that interactive feature or you can use on the front of your cards, which I'm going to show you in an example here. Now, I folded that bouquet wrap, but you can also just open it up. It does have a score line embossed in it, but you can use it either or. Now, this card, I did a small bouquet on the front of the card. If you use the bigger wrap idea, like leaving it open, you could create a bigger assortment or bouquet of flowers. My background is created using the Bursting Backgrounds Turnabout stencil, and then I have a sentiment from the Petite Frames stamp set. My next card is an interactive card. So the front of my card is very plain and simple. I have a small bouquet up here on the front on my belly band, and then I have just a panel that I embossed using the Charming embossing folder. Now, this card, because it's interactive and it's a pretty full bouquet on the inside, is kind of thick. But what a gorgeous bouquet that you can create in the inside of your card. I do have the letter picks in there to spell out the word thanks. That's kind of tucked in with my flowers and just layers and layers of gorgeous flower assortment in there that I have in the front and behind my thanks sentiment. Some of those you can see I die cut the flowers out of I think it's the rose gold metallic cardstock. And it is so gorgeous to have that kind of sprinkled in between the flowers. You can see I have a wrap there, so it's hiding my stems. And then that large sentiment banner that says, "You're the best." Now, the background for that, I used the Bursting Blooms Turnabout stencil on Pebble cardstock with Pebble ink. So now I will show you how to create your own bursting bouquet on the inside of your card. You are going to need the pop-up burst base dies to be able to create that pop-up feature. I do include a full instruction on how to create that pop-up burst base in the pop-up burst introduction video on the Concord and Ninth YouTube channel, but I will also kind of quickly walk through it since there is an additional piece that we're going to be walking through here using the Burst of Blooms die set. So right now I'm laying out all of my pieces that I'm going to need for my pop-up feature. I also have the pieces die cut for the belly band, the pop-up banner, and then I also have a side folding card base. I'm going to do the same thing here as I did in the introduction video for the pop-up burst base die, and that is just drawing in these pencil lines over these scored areas. The die provides the score lines. You do not have to add in the pencil marks. I'm just doing that for visual purposes. So then I'm going to go through and just fold along all of those scored lines, reinforcing those folds with my bone folder. So this top part or the pocket that's kind of in the back, I folded all of those. But when we come to this smaller one, we are going to fold over the top of our back pocket, I will call it. So again, I'm going to just fold in those lines. I'm using my fingernails to kind of push in those folds, but you could also use the edge of a ruler if that helps to get those folds creased. Again, reinforcing them, I want some nice crisp folds so that it works a little bit better with our opening and closing of the card. Once I have all of those scored, I'm going to take that tab, I'm going to add some liquid glue to it and line it up with the tab mark that is embossed on that cardstock that is left by the die that I kind of outlined in the pencil. And I'm going to hold that there so it adheres together really well. Now, while that's drying, I'm going to take this base piece. Now, this reminds me of a teeter tot from a playground. We are going to line up the bottom of that with the bottom of our card. There is a center slot, and the die also says on there to line that up with your center score line. And then I'm drawing that little V and the little places of the teeter tot we want to pencil in. So those you do want to pencil in. And again, this has gone over a little bit more in depth in the introduction video for the pop-up base die. Now that I have my pencil marks in there and my glue is dried, I'm going to take those larger tabs on the outside of my base piece. I'm going to add some liquid glue to those, and I'm going to line up the point at the bottom of this piece with the point that I drew on the cardstock. Don't forget that little one down at the bottom. So we're going to line those up. Also, make sure that your fold on your pop-up feature are lined up with the fold of your cardstock. So we'll place that down and let that sit to really adhere together well before we start folding anything. And now we're going to work on the letter picks. So there's the word thanks that spells out in these letter picks. It is recommended to die cut them twice and layer them together since they are kind of thin. So by doing it twice and layering it together is going to offer stability. Now we are going to take some liquid glue, add it to the back of our first letter, and we're going to place this right over the top of that perforated line that is on that die cut piece. So these additional pieces are with the Burst of Blooms die set. Line up the bottom of your letter pick with the bottom of that piece. You're going to notice that that smaller piece, I have kind of the larger or bigger open area on the left hand side of the letter T, and I'm just going through taking the first three letters, lining it up with that perforated line. So those lines are guides on where to place your letter picks. This one after the A, you're going to notice has that little bit of a gap on the right hand side of it. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the last three letters. I have that more open area of this tab on the right hand side. So you'll see what I'm talking about here. When I place my end down over that perforated line, there's just that little bit of a gap on the left hand side. Continue on with the letter K, adding that liquid glue and placing it over the perforated line, just making sure the bottom of your letter picks line up with the bottom of that small die cut piece. Now we're going to come back to our base or our card base, and the top portion of that is curved to match the curve on your pop-up feature, your interactive feature. So we're going to add liquid glue to the back of this, flip it over, and line up those two curved lines here. You want to make sure you're not putting anything over the fold. It's just going to line up perfectly with the edges of it. So line up your curves. I kind of like to bring tweezers in to help press that down because it can get a little tedious in there to push it down. I don't want to risk squishing any liquid glue over the top and then gluing my two pieces together. So I like to use the tweezers to kind of help press that down. And then same thing with the other side. I'm lining up the curve of that smaller die cut piece and lining it up with the curve of my interactive piece and let that sit so that once we have it all in place, we have the letter picks there, which are going to get covered up. So don't worry, we will hide that. And now you can decorate this in as little or as much as you want with your floral arrangements. These are all die cut pieces from the Burst of Blooms die set. But if you look through your stash, you may have something from other collections that would work really well here. You can place them in that back pocket. You can place them behind the letters thanks, or you can place them in the front. Now, if I'm placing them in the front, I do trim off some of the stems a little bit so they're not poking out. So I'm just using this as an example. I'm not going to completely overfill it. I will show you my finished card project in just a moment. This is just to give you an idea of how you would fill your pockets and how to add the word thanks to it. Now we do have our bouquet wrap that has a scored line in it. So you want to fold along that score line. And this is what we're going to use to cover up our stems in the front. I am using liquid glue to do all of my adhering because, for one, it's a really good, strong adhesive. And also, I have a little bit of wiggle room. I do not recommend a tape runner. I find that once you start trying to fold things up and things, it does have a little tension as you start folding it. You need something that's really going to stick. So, I do recommend a good liquid glue. So now I have my banner. So on the two ends, I am folding to create valleys. And then that center fold, I'm creating mountain. And then we have our smaller pieces here that we just fold along all of those score lines. These are going to create kind of an angled rectangle. And then our tabs at the bottom are going to overlap. And we just secure those once again with some liquid glue. And I like to hold mine together for a few minutes using my tweezers. Again, this is walked through in more detail over on the Concord and Ninth YouTube channel in the introduction to the pop-up burst base die. So definitely check that out if you'd like to see this a little more closer up with a little more instruction. Now, I do also recommend you do your stamping or decorating on your banner before you do any folding or gluing down. Those smaller rectangle pieces are going to help create that lift and dimension to have our banner also be a pop up feature. The Burst of Blooms stamp and die set does also have a smaller banner, so you could use the smaller banner on the front of your card versus having a pop up banner, which is from the Pop Up Burst base die. Once I have my banner put together, I am going to line up those angled rectangles with the pencil lines that I drew on my card base. So I'm just lining those up, pushing those down, attaching them with the liquid glue to have that fun pop-up banner feature to go along with my bouquet. And that is how you would create the Burst of Blooms interactive portion. Now, you don't have to have the word thanks. That's just something fun and extra you could use. You could also use it on the front of a card project on its own, or you could just have a beautiful bouquet in the inside of your card, which I think would be really great for birthdays or anniversaries, and Mother's Day would be a great one to do it for. And then here is another look at my finished card project using the Burst of Blooms stamp and die set and also how to tutorial. Thanks for watching.